So today I'm really excited to introduce my guest for today for Pivot Chats. Her name is Jennifer Nagel, and we sort of met somewhat recently, but she's somebody who, um, you meet people all the time and just you click with people or you don't. And when I met Jennifer, I think within the first few minutes, I felt like I had known her for a very, very, very long time. And she is a wicked, smart, brilliant business owner, and somebody that I feel has been my friend from from minute one. And I really appreciate her heart. I really appreciate her mind, and she's a really, really interesting person. So welcome, Jennifer. Jennifer is the founder of Success Revolution Society, and she's created a really cool community of women founders, women business owners, women entrepreneurs. And I'm going to let her talk a little bit about that. But we're going to talk all about pivots and shifts and evolving your work along the way. So welcome, Jennifer. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much, Laura. And I share the same sentiment. I feel like we're besties, that we may have known each other in another life or something, and all we do is laugh. In fact, your listeners may not know, but we have literally spent like 30 minutes just cackling and laughing and talking about fun stuff. And we're like, oh yeah, we have to
We need to hit
record this
record.
thing.
Yeah.
But yes, as you mentioned, I'm the founder of Success Revolution Society, which is part of my business, Jennifer Nagel Brands. And this was a huge change from the stuff that I've done throughout my entire career and my online entrepreneurial career. And I'm really excited to talk about those things. But I am a mid 40s Black woman living in cold Michigan.
Cold Michigan.
Just really enjoying the work that I'm doing now. I absolutely believe that bringing people together and creating a space and culture for genuine connection is like my life's calling. It's my work. I love it. That's what we do inside of Success Revolution Society. And it from there, so many great pieces of fruit are cultivated. And I'm just really excited to talk about that and the journey of how I got here, because it was weird and convoluted, but I feel like that's how most of our stories are.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So do you want to just quickly tell people about Success Revolution? That way, if they're interested, they can find you and we'll put all of your links and everything. But maybe just a quick best hits of what Success Revolution Society is,
Yes.
so people understand what you've created. And then let's go back in time, because I really think that's part of what we're here to talk about, is the journey to this.
Yeah, absolutely. Success Revolution Society, I describe it as a mastermind community. And as you mentioned, it is for female or female identifying online entrepreneurs. Inside the society, we have core events. We do it same day, same bat channel, same bat time, every single week. But we have a collection of workshops, masterminding as a community. We do co-working together. We take those things that as business owners, it's hard to carve out time for, and it's something that we do together. And in that, you start to build relationships. We facilitate in a way where it's not just a to-do, it's a way that we get to know each other on a very deep and genuine level. And from there, the great thing about it is we start to collaborate, we work together, we amplify each other's businesses and brands through a variety of things. And so the result is that you have this core group of people who you trust, who you have a great relationship with, who are in your corner, and at the same time provide opportunities for your business growth. So I think a lot of us are trying to find that. And there's a lot of like referral groups or networking groups, and we're all familiar with the Facebook group that has like 11,000 people that it's all about promote yourself here. But that's not really, as humans, how we work. We promote people, we work with people who we trust, and trust takes time. So our community, it's a 1 year mastermind commitment. And the great thing about that is, now that we're several months in, you're starting to see, that first, there's the initial piece, and then you start to settle into the community. And then as you mature into the community, there are just so many different benefits, and some that I can put on my sales page, and some that are just those wonderful serendipitous moments that happen when you bring a group of very smart, very talented, very impact driven women together. We're doing big things, and I love it.
I love that sentence. We're doing big things and I love it. Yeah. And you are, and I've been to a couple of your meetings, and you also have a talent, I think, for bringing potent, powerful, soulful, heart-centered people together. So good on you for just being you, and being able to, and harnessing that gift of yours to create something really powerful, not just for yourself, but for other business owners. And I think one of the, you and I, in terms of our business philosophy and life philosophies, we're very aligned on a lot of things. One of which is, I think the power of community. I think as much as, I'll speak for myself, as much as I love being, well, you could argue I'm a solopreneur, but I have a team. But I think as much as I love, running my business myself, I'm the only business owner here. There's also one of probably the only thing I still miss from my corporate days was the team and collaboration vibe, and okay, we need to figure out what the client needs around this. Let's get all the right people in a room, a blank whiteboard, and powwow, and all kinds of, you can't do it with just one person. It's the power was in the community and the multiple brains and coming together. And I do miss that. And I've found places and ways to create that for myself over the last 5 years in business, because as a lot of my clients tell me, like, oh, I just kind of feel alone in this journey, even though I'm choosing it, and even though I love my work. And finding that connection, I think, is really important for your sanity, but also for your ability to keep evolving and growing over time in your work. And I think that's a lot of what you foster with your group.
I swear, I can't believe we have just now met each other. You're saying the whiteboard stuff, and that's like literally what it gets me wet. Like, I love so whiteboards.
I know.
But you're so right. I think the thing is, we're human. We're kind of hardwired for social something. And not to say that that means going to a company with 40,000 people, but we like to connect, and it doesn't have, connection doesn't mean like we're at a big party in the center of whatever. It just means that you can have meaningful conversations and relationships outside of yourself. Yeah. And I like being alone. I'm fiercely independent, but I also love that synergy that you get when you do bring people together, kind of like what you were describing. And I think we were talking about this earlier. I think there's a lot of ways that cultural norms or societal norms tell us that we have to work in order for it to be satisfying, or for you to feel successful. And many of us as entrepreneurs are kind of breaking those rules. So we're going off on our own, and in a way that's awesome. But then in another way, it's like you're kind of breaking off from the pack. We still want that social, connection, and those, like what I call the water cooler conversations, when you're just bumping into people, and it gives you energy, it sparks ideas. But we don't necessarily need to have like a company of a traditional company, I should say, of people around us and work at a 9 to 5, or, have to wear stockings to go to work in order to have that. So I think that's why these online communities like Success Revolution Society and others that are doing a fantastic job of bringing people together who are a bit of rule breakers. They're change makers. They're doing something different, but also recognize the opportunity that we have to do things in a communal sense that work well for our businesses.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, so let's go back in time. Where would you like to start in terms of sharing with our audience sort of what was going on in your mind, what was going on in your business when, something shifted? Because I really do feel that what you're about to say about your experience, there are other people out there feeling that like pull, tug to do something different, or they're pissed off about something. And I think sometimes that's the clue, right? And we all have our own clues, but I think so much of what I'm doing here with Pivot Chats, and thank you for supporting this, is to normalize this experience so that so that we can kind of, we're going to go through these experiences, but so that we can sort of recognize what's happening and just move through it, as opposed to think that we're crazy. Because I think sometimes that's what
we're a little crazy, but in a good way.
We are in the best way. So, okay, where would you like to start?
Yeah, well, you and I talked earlier about the difference between the big pivots and the little pivots.
Yes.
And so I'll talk a little bit about the big pivots, because you're right. I think a lot of us are going through that. But the thing that was most impactful for me was really the little pivots. And okay, here's my story. I worked in higher education for 15 years, did really well, was an administrator, did really cool things, great. It wasn't where I wanted to end my career. And after 15 years in, I felt like I was at an impasse and I needed to make a decision. I always knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur, work for myself. Mm-hmm. And of course, I did the thing that was least like what I did in my previous career, and I became a fitness coach, an online fitness coach. Everybody thought I was nuts. It wasn't cool. Nobody was doing it back then when I did it. So I started doing that, made some money, was like, hey, this could work. And so I did that for a few years until I realized, again, it was a point in time where I'm like, this was great, but this is not what I want to continue to do. So I guess the first thing I would say to anybody who's considering a change, which might feel like a big change, you might make several big changes in your life and your career, and that's okay. Because again, we're told that story that you're supposed to find something and stick to it. The reality is that most of us just aren't built that way. And we're multifaceted. There's lots of things that we love and enjoy, and there are things that we want to explore. And so it's okay to make changes. It doesn't make you flaky or flighty, which were the messages that I received growing up.
Me too.
It just means that, hey, you're not a one-dimensional person. So,
and I would argue, I think that's how we grow. That's how I actually think it's not even just okay. Like, I agree with you. It's 100% okay. And we want to judge ourselves for that, or society wants to judge us for that. But I also think that's how we do big things, to go back to your words. Like, that's how we do big things, is by letting ourselves move into whatever we're sort of feeling pulled into. And, I think finding your way in that is so much a part of this journey. Okay, keep going.
So true. So my last large pivot was after fitness. I realized that, I wanted to make sure I was having large impact in this world. And I was like, okay, well, if it's not exactly going to be fitness, what is it? And so I know, as I was telling you earlier, I think I had iterations of Success Revolution Society in my head for like a good 18 months. So this wasn't like this, I'm going to wake up and I knew exactly what to do. It's like, I knew I wanted community. That was loud and clear. And over time and through experience and conversations, I started to slowly shape what that looked like. So I launched Success Revolution Society in 2022. So this is relatively new, and I'm not sure when listeners will hear this, but just know right now we're recording it January of 23. So 7 months. So this is a baby. This is a newborn little swaddled baby. And it was just really important for me to create a community and bring people together, because I think at the end of the day, that's what I was craving. So we talk about like we're building stuff for other people, and that's true, but I was also building the thing that I couldn't find. And it turned out there are a lot of other people who were looking for something like that too. So those were the big pivots. Now, the little pivots, I think, were the things that were most impactful. And the first thing was, I had to learn how to trust myself. Like I said, we have a lot of programming that tells us this is what you should do. And I couldn't figure out for years why I did all the things and I still didn't feel great. I mean, yeah, I had a nice home. I made good money. I had a business card with a fancy title on it. I had respect, but I was just not like, it didn't feel right. There was something else. And it wasn't money or wasn't anything like that. It was just something else. And I knew I was supposed to do more or different. Maybe that's the word.
Yeah.
So in my business, what that started looking like was I'd always learned, hire mentors, hire people, and whatever. And I think that's great. I still love hiring mentors and services, but I had to do it because not because I didn't trust my own instincts. It's because it was more because I needed to, for example, one of the best investments I ever made this past year was I did a full branding and I hired, and I'm going to shout out my friend
Mhm.
Christy Black Creative with the, um, and I spent a good chunk of money on that, but that's because I know that's not a skill I have, and I certainly wasn't going to take all the time and experience to learn how to do that just for the rebrand. So I have no problems hiring that. I have no problems hiring people for personal development because those are things, they're blind spots that I see in my own life. And if I did have a business mentor, it would be more of I want someone to bounce ideas off of. But I had to learn how to really trust myself because there were a lot of, for example, there were a lot of, when I started the community piece, there seemed to be like three big models in online business. You were either a coach or a service provider, you were
Mhm.
in a group coaching program, or you were in a membership. And there was pieces of those experiences that I liked, but it's like I didn't want to. I'm not a coach. Well, I am. In the past I was a coach, but moving forward, I didn't want to be a coach.
Mhm.
I wanted to be a facilitator, which I felt was very different. I didn't want to be a
Yep.
consultant. I wanted to be the person who got these things, brought these people together. I wasn't trying to do a group program because I felt that would put me in this like expert model type
Yep.
thing, and that's not what I was looking for. And the memberships that I saw typically were these like low cost, I'm going to give you information every month, and the community piece was missing.
Mhm.
So I had to trust that I didn't have to subscribe to any of these models, and I could create something of my own.
Mhm.
And even though coaches told me you need to do this, and this, I'm like, well,
Yeah.
but that's not exactly what I want. I think in the past, I would have been like, oh, okay, well, that person knows better than me.
Right.
So the big pivot was like finally having the balls to trust myself and say, no, you know what, Jennifer, you're pretty damn smart. I mean, you didn't get to here, you're not fresh off of, anything. You're just really, you know what you're talking about. So trust your instincts.
Mhm.
And I just realized I said fresh off something, and I realized that could sound kind of racist. So let me just backtrack
Mm.
that and say I just had to learn how to trust myself, that I knew stuff. I
Yeah.
wasn't an idiot. I had experience. So I just really had to believe in myself. And that takes a lot when you're told all your life that other people know more than you.
Yeah. Yeah. And I just actually want to like stop right there with the little moment of silence with that, because I think that's a mindset shift to like way oversimplify it, or a identity level shift
Mhm.
that lots of us, we all have our own things, belief systems. But I think I share that. I also had that belief system around certain things, like my doctor knows more, knows best for my
Right.
body. Wait a minute, I actually know more about my body, right? But that, and I think the entrepreneurial journey is one of those great opportunities in life. There are others, but it's one of the opportunities of life where, should you choose to accept it, so much, I think a part of the journey is deepening that self-trust. And because I don't know anybody doing big things, however you want to define big things, who isn't trusting themselves at some level, because you're innovating, you're doing something that is the whole, you know nature of it is you're breaking some sort of norm, whether you're trying to or not. And I think it's very easy to follow the pre-structured, coaching programs and packages. And I struggle with that as a coach. I struggle with that too, of like, that's not quite me. And like, I can, borrow from those things, but ultimately it's my responsibility to deliver to my clients what I think is going to make the most sense and what works for my style. Um,
Yes.
and I
100%.
so feel you on that. Like, you trusted yourself And that's, I think, a big way of reason why you were able to birth this,
Yeah.
beautiful
Yeah.
community.
Huge internal pivot. I think that's
Mhm.
definitely one of the little ones. The other little one was the whole piece about over strategizing. So,
Yeah, let's
spoiler
talk about
alert.
that one.
Spoiler alert. My last like big career job, I did a lot of strategy and futuristic kind of planning and thinking. So I actually, and I still do this in my own personal life. I enjoy looking ahead. And I also
Mhm.
recognize it's like one of those things that's both a strength and a, impediment sometimes. Um, but the big thing was I would be the person who would think like 17 steps ahead and like, I'm going to put this in place and then this is going to happen and then this is going to happen and then this is happen. And in like 30 minutes, I could have this like 5 year plan. And one of the big things that I had to remember was to stop and pause, because over strategizing does a couple of things. First, I think it can set up some unrealistic expectations, because if most of us think, okay, I'm going to do A plus B and that's going to equal C, and it never works out that way. It just doesn't. There's just way too many variables. It doesn't work that way. And the second thing is it can keep you from actually taking action. And
Yeah.
so I decided, so I was at this, so SRS kicked off in June. I was at a retreat in the spring, maybe it was April or May. So I basically had all these elements, and my friend, Jasmine, was at the retreat, and we were talking about all our ideas. I was still had fitness clients, yet I was still like working on Success Revolution Society. And she's like, Jennifer, you've been talking about this for like almost a year now since I've known you. She's like, so what is really stopping you from moving forward? She's like, because I just think it's fear. And she just said it. And I was just like, wow, yeah, it is. And it was at that moment I'm like, she's right. I always reference this Jen Sincero reference. She told a story in one of her books, and it, don't ask me to quote the story, but one of the morals was, this person had to decide. And she said, decide meant to cut off all other options, meaning that you can't have
Mhm.
your foot in one thing and say, well, I'm going to slowly move to this and expect that you're going to reap the full benefits of the new thing before you put your full self in it. So at that moment at the retreat, I decided that, okay, this is what I'm going to do. And I don't know everything that's going to happen. I have
Yeah.
a general sense. I know what my values are. I know what's important to me, and I understand the culture that I'm trying to create. And I'm just going to move forward in good faith and make decisions, the best decisions I can in the moment.
Trust
And
myself.
no,
Yeah.
I didn't have a big fancy brand at that time because I hadn't hired Christy yet, and honestly, she wasn't fully finished when we kicked off our first group. I didn't have everything in place. Some of the stuff was literally words on a white sheet of paper. It wasn't fancy. I didn't have a website. It didn't matter because I was so convicted with what I wanted to do that I just moved forward anyway. And then over the months, I have tried things that have not worked out. Um, but this whole concept of knowing enough, of being okay with experimentation, and kind of running my business based on values versus always have it strategized. The strategy is there. I want to say I'm not just flying off the seat of my
Of
pants,
course.
but I also leave a lot of flexibility in there. So that was a huge change with how I've operated pretty much most of my professional career. And it is scary. There are times where I end up, in bed crying, watching Vampire Diaries back episodes or Suits, because we discovered we
Yes.
both watch
Yes.
Suits.
I'm a big fan of it.
Um, so yeah, but that, I have to say, between that and trusting myself are the two kind of little things that you can't necessarily see from the outside that have made such a huge difference as I pivot. And I think those are skills that when, not if, but when I pivot again or when something else new comes in, I will be able to kind of keep that in my tool chest.
Absolutely. And what I love about your two pieces is they really go together. Like it's sort of right. Like you couldn't make the decision, and there's something inherent in your ability to make. And I'm so big on decisions too. Like, we don't even realize where we're half-assing things or where we're dipping our toes into things. And there's absolutely a value in like moments of gradual things or experimenting with something, dipping your toe. But at some point, and knowing that point as a nuanced sort of practice, I think. And one of the things that I work with my clients around is like, is it time to hold on a minute and strategize? Or are we moving into over strategizing and you have enough clarity to move forward? Anyway, what my point is you couldn't have truly like full body decided and been, I love your word, convicted in that without the self-trust underneath to say, what I got is good enough to move forward. And I trust myself, the universe, all the people that are going to come into this space, that I will figure out the details as I go and allow myself to experiment with things and go, okay, that was fine, but we're not going to keep doing that piece anymore. And just, you know, letting the little pieces, because they really are little pieces at that point, letting those little pieces evolve.
And I think it's important too for people who are watching or listening is that it might sound great now, like I can go back and say this in this wonderful, beautiful way. It's scary. This shit is scary. And yes, I question everything. And I'm like, oh, and literally I had a moment this past weekend where same kind of thing. I made a decision and it's scary to me. And I cry and I get worried about stuff, but then I have to remember, it's like, no, Jennifer, remember the big picture. Remember the thing that you're going to do. And if it were easy, everyone would do it. And I kept thinking about, you know, I have to continue to ground myself in the facts, first of all. Like, fact, it's only been 7 months. Fact, you know, I'm still learning. Fact, I do trust myself. And when I make decisions that are aligned with who I am and what I believe, they usually end up pretty well. It's when I question myself and fall victim to the fears and everyone else's advice and commentary that I get way off track. But I just want people to know that the stuff we're talking about is not like, oh, step one, decide, step two, do this. This is hard work. And it's stuff that you have to constantly remind yourself to do. The personal growth piece is just ridiculously important. And I am a podcast listening, therapy believer, you know, pray, meditate, yoga, all of it. I'm like, I'm throwing everything at it because I can't tell you how challenged I have always felt as an entrepreneur. I still would not do anything else in my life. I love it, but it is challenging. And it is one of those things that you truly have to believe it and love it because it is going to break you down, you down. But it also builds you back up, and the skills that you learn are just so amazing. And if you can get past the humps, the dips, the challenges, the rewards on the other side are just immeasurable.
100%. Is there anything else you wanted to share as we close? And I would love to have you back sometime, but is there anything else that's sort of on your mind as we close out that you wanted to make sure you shared or?
I just want to encourage you, no matter what business you're in, to think about the personal connections we can make with each other. And I'm saying that because here I am looking at Laura, who's like my soul sister from another mister or whatever. And I would have never met her had I not prioritized relationships, like really truly making relationships. There's so many messages around like, here's the marketing strategy that's going to make you $1 million. And whatever you choose, underlying that is always the human connection piece. And so that's why it's such a huge part of my value system. It's a huge part of Success Revolution Society. It's a huge part of even the way that I've pivoted, is just knowing that I trust myself. I trust that people are, honestly, we're just treating people like people, not like numbers, not like businesses, not like whatever, but we are human beings and we have this need to connect. And let's not forget that. So take the time to have a coffee chat, not a sales call that's called a coffee chat, but like an actual coffee chat, and learn that, you know, you have the same birthday as someone. I learned that earlier today, that I have the same birthday as one of my brand new buddy's children. And like, those are the things that give you that internal sense of joy and connection. And they also will benefit your business. You don't know how. And this is kind of that trust and experimentation and
Yeah.
just having faith. You don't know how necessarily, but it might be a personal benefit, it might be whatever, but just get out there and have great conversations with people, trust people, connect with people. And I'm telling you that the result is magical. So that's one thing that doesn't quite fit into our conversation today, but that's a big part of who I am. I know I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that. The connection piece of your life and your business is so damn critical. So don't forget about it. Don't try to operationalize it. Just go out there and do it.
Beautiful. Thank you. Okay, where can people find you, Jennifer, and the Success Revolution Society?
Yeah, so the best way, the shortest way to connect with us is to go to jennifernagel.co/SRS links. So from there, you can, come to our next workshop and mixer, which is where I met Laura. We have these really great conversations where you learn something, and then we do our mixers in a very different, somewhat non-traditional way, which makes
Mhm.
it really easy to talk with people. It'll also tell you learn more about Success Revolution Society. You can also find us on Instagram at Success Revolution Society. So, yeah, find me, say hi. I really do want to meet you.
Beautiful. Jennifer is absolutely a gem, and I encourage you to check her out, check her group out, anything that she does now or in the future, whenever you're listening to this, because we could be, 2025 going down. Yeah,
I
check
need
her
to
out.
hire you to be my hype woman. Yeah, like check her out, everybody. Whatever
I'll,
she does,
I'll
please
do it.
throw money in her direction. I love it.
I'm all about it. And the links will be here as well, Jennifer, so that people who are watching or listening can just easily click and find. And thank you so much. I appreciate you so much for being here. And we will be back with another episode soon. Take care.
Thank you.